The fallen leaves tell a story in our home across the fog.
This is a limbo, fair traveller. I know that you must have a story.
Greetings, traveller, from beyond the fog.
The call of long-lost grace speaks to us all.
Why else would you visit such a place, this lost, decayed kingdom? The fire shows signs of fading.
A war from which no lord arose.
It's an undead. An undead has come to play.
You, neither born with greatness nor granted it by the fates.
Those who come to Dranglake seeking salvation soon lose hope.
Don't worry, Torrent. Fortune is on his side.
All people come here for the same reason, to break the curse.
You're no different, I should think. Doesn't stand a chance.
Unfortunately for you, however, you are maidenless.
One of his kind is sure to seek the Elden Ring.
No one has come this far. Not for a very long while.
I wish you luck in realizing your ambition. You have fought long and hard. I have no doubt you will become Elden Lord. May you take the throne.
You have fought admirably on your journey, cursed undead.
How you grapple without falter with this dreadfully twisted world.
Long and hard didst thou fight, tarnished warrior.
Seek adversity, as befits you, seeker of fire, coveter of the throne.
What drive you so to overcome this supposed curse?
This world is in dire need of repair and death. Indiscriminate.
Inherit the order of this world, or destroy it.
But nonetheless, you must forge on to bring an end to your journey and mine.
The fallen leaves tell a story of how a tarnished of no renown became Elden Lord.
Go through the door and trot along to the kingdom.
Dranglake and the lands between are seemingly infinite. The lands are varied and vast beyond comprehension, as if they are a dream. The bearer of the curse in Dark Souls 2 and the tarnished in Elden Ring find themselves in similar journeys through uniquely open worlds when compared to others in the Fromsoft Souls series. These lands offer more freedom for exploration, variation in environments, and developmental possibilities, all while containing the longest journeys among the series. As the bearer of the cursed and the tarnished, we continue, we persevere, and we grapple without falter in these twisted yet beautiful worlds. Dranglake and the lands between are the open worlds of Fromsoft. Both Elden Ring and Dark Souls 2 deviate from the more maze-like structure or looping level design found in other titles. While the Metroidvania design can be found in some levels in DS2, like the Forest of Fallen Giants or the various legacy dungeons of Elden Ring, most of the game's space has a more sprawling structure. The design is far more expansive, where there is a wider range and space for players to explore, versus a condensed scaffolded design found in other titles. Levels essentially transition from one expansive zone to the next, rather than being layered on top of one another. This makes the zones in DS2 and Elden Ring, in my view, more akin to an open world design than the others in the series. Elden Ring and DS2 do really well in showing spectacle and visual aesthetic in an open world or expansive type setting versus the labyrinthian design. Some of my favorite examples of this are Hyde's Tower with its cathedrals among the ocean waves, and Altus Plateau's fields of gold. The more open world design of both Elden Ring and Dark Souls 2 allow the developers to have a more diverse array of biomes from level to level. While this may not be everyone's cup of tea, it can't be denied that both games offer the most variety of environmental design, color palette, and atmosphere. The expansive design allows there to be more jarring transitions between locations due to there being less of a focus on how levels connect or stack on one another. The focus shifts instead to how the levels transition visually rather than mechanically, opting for that shock value approach when entering a new zone. This allows for a more diverse biome selection where the lands feel more dreamlike and how they transition between these environments along the player's journey through them. Both the lands between and Drangleic have a wider color palette where the lands seem to conflict with one another in an interesting way that produces a more fantastical environment than an oppressive one. While thematically all FromSoft games are oppressive, Elden Ring and Dark Souls 2 visual design lends themselves to a more calming or hypnotic type of approach. It's not until one digs into the lore or at certain moments where the player recognizes the oppression of both the lands between and Drangleic. That same variety among level environments can be said for both games' DLC. The Shadow Realm of Elden Ring has a variety of diverse locations, from the Cerulean Coast to the Scadu Altus, and the Crown DLCs of DS2 are all embodiments of different elements being poison, ice, and fire. DLC and other titles seem to be a continuation of the same environmental design of the base game, such as DS1's DLC, where the aesthetic is much more consistent. While both approaches to variety or consistency among environmental design are of personal preference, there is something to be said about how magical and beautiful the locations of DS2 and Elden Ring are in both the base game and expansions. The attempts of open world design in both these titles allow for greater freedom of visual design and how they connect or seemingly blend into one another, whether that's grounded in reality or as if they're glued together within a dream. Since both games are the most open worlds of FromSoft Souls to date, this allows the structure of the game to allow a bit more player freedom as opposed to the hyper-linear and focused setups of other titles. Elden Ring allows for players to explore in any direction for most of the game until the climax following the mountaintops of Giant Zone. That same freedom would be utilized in Shadow of the Erdtree, where the layout was a more condensed and layered version of the base game map. Arguably, this is where the DLC shines the most, by taking the open world structure of the base game and scaffolding it in unique ways much like the maze-like titles in the series. In my view, it's a marriage of what makes all the games great in terms of their level design. The freedom to essentially go anywhere, no matter the player level or progress, was the core philosophy and appeal of Elden Ring's departure from some of the core elements the Souls games were known for when it came to progression and level design. The same can be said for Dark Souls 2, where the player freedom was granted from the very start. It took the structure of Demon Souls Archstones and connected them all in the same world instead of needing to warp between locations. Dark Souls 2's gameplay progression stems from Majula, where all pathways to the Four Lords can be pursued in any order, whereas other titles would prioritize more focused or minimal routing, offering less choice. While again, it's not to say one philosophy or design is better than the other, Elden Ring and Dark Souls 2 are unique in allowing more player freedom and establishing multiple pathways throughout the player journey, even at the start of the game, versus being bottlenecked at certain zones or bosses. If players were stuck, they could explore another location. More of these moments of seeking alternate paths came up for me when playing Dark Souls 2 versus other titles, and Elden Ring takes that philosophy of going somewhere else when stuck to the max, making it the game's entire formula and intended first-run experience. Dark Souls 2's structure mimics that of the spokes on a wheel, where different paths branch from Majula, and Elden Ring's inclusion of a mount and fast travel at the start allows players to revisit and explore with ease. Looking back at Dark Souls 2, we can see how they built from Demon Souls with the branching paths at the start, while still maintaining the interconnected world of Dark Souls 1 in certain locations. That philosophy would be cranked up with Elden Ring's design, where freedom was not restricted to a handful of paths, but to allowing the player to go anywhere they desired. With variety of location and player freedom, the same could be said for the boss lineup of both games. Elden Ring and Dark Souls 2 have the largest boss roster among the series. This allows for greater expression and creativity among the boss design and mechanics, in my view. While other titles excel at a less is more approach, Dark Souls 2 and Elden Ring express a greater level of freedom in how boss mechanics operate. There are a lot more puzzle or gimmick bosses or unique gimmicks among the lineup, harkening back to the roster of Demon Souls. There's a lot more charming jank and gimmickiness to these lineups that I find similar to one another and stand out as unique among the series. There are very high highs and low lows in my view due to the large roster of boss encounters. Bosses also become a product of their open world where many are referenced or in theme with their associated environments. Of course, there is the odd encounter or seemingly misplaced boss here and there. I'm looking at you, Ulcerated Tree Spirit number 10. But many bosses in both titles embody the themes and aesthetic of their associated level or environment well, in my view. There's a more unique and varied cast of foes in these two titles, amongst others, further highlighting the thematic concepts on the more fantastical elements and approach discussed earlier. Due to the sheer length of both games, both compensate for the leveling system in similar ways. By the end of both games, average playthroughs will end with the player character at extremely high levels when compared to other titles. Because of the number of bosses and increased player freedom and some unique mechanics like the true open world of Elden Ring and bonfire aesthetics from Dark Souls 2, there are a lot more opportunities to get overleveled quickly. With these extra levels, there's a lot more opportunity to expand builds beyond just focus quality, strength, or dexterity builds. Magic can be worked in as a true secondary means of combat on a first playthrough now because of the extra levels and currency players will find themselves having. While ADP has long been criticized in DS2, I find that these extra levels are meant to be pumped into agility for this reason. The same can be said for many of the lofty stat requirements for Elden Ring's weapons as well. Those extra levels are meant to go somewhere. Elden Ring and Dark Souls 2 also encourage build diversity, so respeccing levels is a bit easier to pull off mid-playthrough as opposed to other titles. Where one or two max upgrade items would be found on a normal playthrough of other titles, players of Elden Ring and Dark Souls 2 will usually be drowning in not only souls and runes, but upgrade materials as well. The world is not only more open, but the build possibilities are much more expansive as well. Both games not only encourage exploration in how players traverse the worlds of Drang Lake and the lands between, but how they grow their character along the way. Both games also have a similar progression structure in their respective open worlds. Dark Souls 2 has the bearer of the curse gathering the souls of the four great ones as they have been reincarnated in Drang Lake, and Elden Ring tasks the player with gathering the great runes from the demigods. They take the formula established in Demon Souls and build a much more open system around the quote, Archstone structure. While this progression has been seen in other titles as well, Elden Ring and Dark Souls 2 allow the player to tackle the main bosses in just about any order, while other titles have an intended or specific path the player takes on the main foes. This allows a large portion of both games to be skipped thanks to Elden Ring's open world setup and Dark Souls 2's bonfire aesthetic system to gain souls quickly, making for follow-up playthroughs more varied compared to other titles. Both progressions are blocked off by barriers that are meant to wall off the climax locations in the form of Leyndell and Drang Lake Castle, which require a great amount of souls or great runes to remove. While Elden Ring demonstrated this system much better in a thematic perspective, in my view, its roots began in Dark Souls 2 with the freedom of taking on bosses in any order. Players could take on bosses they were either over-leveled or under-leveled for to their heart's desire, much like Demon Souls. However, there are less barriers to reaching the required or essential bosses of these games when compared to Demon Souls. Because of the long and arduous journey when compared to other games, if players seek to vanquish every boss, both games heavily convey the themes of perseverance to the player. Both the Tarnished and the Bearer of the Curse encounter other characters that are impressed or bewildered by their ability to press on. Both games have the longest runtime, so it's only fitting that the encounters players have with others along their journey comment on their perseverance. Like other videos in this series have discussed, there's much more of an emphasis of reverence for the individual rather than making the player feel small. The possibilities for the player character are much greater as they have a greater sense of importance and responsibility when compared to other titles. Essentially, both games, when compared to others in the series, make the player feel more important and responsible for the world's fates they usher in. The Bearer of the Curse and the Tarnished push on despite the odds. When journeying through a monumental trek encompassing a wide array of environments, it is only fitting that the worlds reflect their determination. They bear the weight of the curse and the tarnishing of gold. Through the infinite expanse, with threats seemingly infinite, they press on. They endure, they overcome, they become the lords of the open worlds of Fromsoft. Thanks for watching. What are your thoughts on the similarities between the open worlds of Souls? If there is something that I missed that you would like to add to the discussion, feel free to share in the comments below. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts, insights, disagreements, etc. After all, this is a discussion in which these games impact us all very differently, which is why we love them so much. If you like my takes on Souls and other video game titles from time to time, consider subscribing if you are new around here, as well as giving the video a like if you got something out of it. I appreciate your support in any way you like to show it. Thank you for watching, and I have no doubt you will become Elden Lord along your journey. Keep fighting. Take care.